Good morning, everybody. Democratic candidate in Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District race, Laura Gapske, is our very special guest today, Thursday, October 6th, 2022. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Candidate, a casual style and relaxed chat where we get to know the person, not just their politics. Special thank you to some of our recent Meet the Candidate guests, including Danielle Johnson, Dick Osman, Sarah Yakub, Ron Johnson, and Patty Schochner, just to name a few. You can watch a recording of those shows and all of our shows on our website at DrydenWire.com, right here on our Facebook page, under the videos tab. But probably just easier, we store all of these on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DrydenWire. And a reminder, tomorrow, Friday, October 7th at 8:30 a.m., I will be welcoming the Republican candidate for Wisconsin's Secretary of State, Amy Loudenbeck, on the show. But today, we're chatting with Democratic candidate, Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District race, Laura Gapske. Laura, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I was wondering when we're, hopefully to have you on. And I know your campaign manager a little bit, who she's awesome. Yeah. I know we're in a different party, not a campaign stuff, but yeah, and she's just fantastic.
I'm really lucky to have her because she's really connected me with the lower part of the district and is absolutely phenomenal person.
Yes,
campaigns are hard, and working with people that are really good humans makes it livable.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah, so the lower part of the district, or as I like to refer to as the peasants.
No.
Down here. Yeah.
I was born in Upper Michigan, and actually they call, folks from the lower peninsula trolls, right? And I'm a Youper because I was born in Upper Michigan.
That's Youper. Is that a term of almost like an endearment? Do they say it affectionately,
No.
or is it a? Oh no. Okay, got it. Well, speaking of where you were from. Because this is the first time that you have been on for a show, certainly we're going to get into why you're running and kind of where you are in some topics, maybe some topical things, kind of your stance on certain things. But first, we want to kind of get to know you. So sounds like you were raised in Michigan, but tell us, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, no, I was born in Escanaba, Michigan, where Youper, if you watch Escanaba in the Moonlight, pretty much sums up what the UP is like. But I've lived in the city of Superior since I was 5, so I was not born, but raised here and very much understand northern Wisconsin.
Sure. And so you went to, Superior schools?
Yeah, yep. I went to Cooper Elementary, then Central Junior High, which is no longer here, the high school, and then UW Superior.
UW Superior. What'd you go for?
Sociology and cultural studies as a minor. So I really learned about society and had some amazing professors while going to school there.
So when you went for sociology, because I don't even know what that is. I don't think anybody does. I think it's just made up. It's just whatever. Just get a degree in something. When you were going into this, what did you want to be when you were all grown up? What was the goal?
Yeah, I thought about psychology, but really studying humanities was definitely the goal. And what I wanted to be is actually a flight attendant at first. I wanted to travel, and then I ended up getting pregnant, and that obviously puts a little bit of a different perspective. Yeah. So yep. And then I ended up working overnights in a domestic violence shelter, and I knew that was kind of my calling. So while in college, worked overnights in a domestic violence shelter, went to class at 8:30 in the morning, napped with my son after class, and then somehow made it through graduation and started working in the nonprofit field.
If you can, domestic violence shelter, obviously there's some things we don't necessarily need to get into, but just what's like an average, what were you doing there? What was a night like? You said overnight. Is it just like intake stuff? Do you meet with them? Is it scheduling? What did you do?
All of the above. I mean, the most important thing was safety. So you'd get calls in the middle of the night from law enforcement when there was a domestic incident and someone that didn't have a safe place to go, and you bring them and their children in and get them all set up in a room. So They had a safe place to stay, make sure they had food and what they needed. And
Mm.
that's basically what you did, and answer the crisis line. That was a big piece too. So
And
yeah, a lot of
most people, when
not
you hear overnight shift, you think boring. But I just now
no.
kind of was thinking that actually that's the probably the uh it's probably, I'm trying to find the right word without being, I always say offensive things and I don't mean to, so I'm working really hard at that, Laura, to try not to, or saying something that's inappropriate, but that's the busy time
Every
in
day
that
was
kind of,
different.
yeah.
Yeah. Every day was different. Every night was different. And one of the things that I love the most about the job, although it's sad that these jobs have to even exist,
Yeah.
is that you meet a ton of people from all different backgrounds and hear their stories, and just you get to be with them during a very challenging time. And that's a special bond that I still have relationships with some of those women to this day.
That has to be a difficult job because you see these people coming in and they're hurting in all different ways that you can describe that word, hurting. And then to see them and you're there to help, but it's, I don't know, is it a longer term care stuff, or is it really we're just like a stopgap here? And you don't know how this ends up in 2 weeks from now. I know when we talk to people in law enforcement, they say that one of the hardest things actually is being the dispatcher, because you never get to know what happens. Like you get the call
Yeah.
and somebody's dying or emergency this and this, and that's it. Like you don't really ever find out whatever happened to this. Was that kind of a similar thing where I don't know what ended up happening with these people going forward?
Oftentimes, yeah, but it was a 30-day shelter, so it was a band-aid, as we call it, but it was a temporary place where people could
Mm,
figure out what their next steps were, and at least for 30 days guaranteed to have housing and food and clothes or socks, whatever they needed,
yeah.
hygiene products. And I just want to give a shout out, speaking of dispatchers. I met the dispatcher, one of the most phenomenal women in Burnett County. She does it all. And we kind of talked a little bit about that, like she doesn't always know what happens after that, but she's there with those folks during that emergency. And very talented, person that just has all these screens. She's a tech wizard and does a good job keeping Burnett County specifically safe.
Yeah, we have to give them more shout outs as often as we
Yes.
possibly can for what they do. Like, no joke.
Right.
So that
Right.
you had said that you went into a nonprofit. So what did you do after you graduate? Then I thought you had mentioned something about a nonprofit. What was that and how did that come to be?
Yeah, my entire professional career has been in nonprofits, which you learn how to stretch a dollar, just like as
Yeah.
a single parent, you have those same skills. So I guess it was meant to be. But after graduation, I got a full-time job at that same organization. And then, like you said, was no longer the Band-Aid. I was doing the community work. So that was a different challenge, and doing focus groups and support groups. It was awesome.
So you were at that place for how long? Was that your whole time until like just
eight
recently?
years, but I had 8 years, but I kept getting promotions. And then I really got into, the last job I had there was a legal advocate. So I helped file restraining orders, criminal justice. So when the person's significant other had criminal charges, I would support them through the court process, social services hearings, spent a lot of time in court and filing, helping with the attorney, any kind of support they needed as well.
That's God's work, man. No kidding. I'm serious. That's phenomenal. Yeah, we need more of those and more people like yourself that go into these fields. Was it
Yes.
emotionally draining, or I mean, some jobs you can go and work, you punch in, and then you punch out and you go home. But maybe you
Yeah, I
still have
don't
to
live
do
like
some
that.
work. But yeah, but was there emotionally? Were there times where I can't do this anymore, or you've always been able to kind of compartmentalize? Because I think I would struggle with that because I don't think I could. I would want to help them so much, even beyond what I'm able to help them with. I think that'd be emotionally draining.
You just gotta find things to fill your cup, and wait till we talk about child abuse. That's gonna be really exciting, because that's the second half of a lot of my career, actually.
Okay.
Just kidding. We don't have to talk about child abuse. That people will be like, no thanks,
Uh-huh.
peace out.
Yeah. Right.
But that's really, again, where I would say that was maybe a little more emotionally draining. because they had less choice in the situation.
Yeah.
Not that domestic
Yep.
violence victims have complete choices, but they're adults. And kids are largely ignored oftentimes in society. So,
Yeah, anything against kids, that gets all of us fired up. So is that where you
yeah,
went into next? So you
exactly.
were 8 years there, and then where'd you go? Was that
Yeah.
what you're talking about now?
Yeah, then I went to a child advocacy center and became a professional forensic interviewer where I interview
Sure.
kids for abuse allegations for law enforcement, social services, and prosecutors.
Oof.
So, still in that legal field where you listen. My job is to listen to the kids and pull out some of the most egregious things that happen in our society. It doesn't happen all the time. That's the good thing, but there is a need for that role.
Yeah. And how long were you doing that job in that role in that company or that place?
Yeah, I've did that for, I believe, I think that was another 8 years. And since then, now I've done my own business for a couple years now
What's
and
that?
provide those services as an independent contractor.
Really? So is it a name of a business?
It's a what?
Do you have like a name of the business, or is it just like
Yeah, LG
Laura?
Principles.
What was it?
LG Principles.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah,
And why did you
right? I
decide to
got
do that?
standards. What made me do that? I really believe in, supporting our multidisciplinary teams is what we call it. The folks that do the investigations for child abuse. And so those are the partners I name, in addition to like mental health providers, medical providers, cultural specific, representatives.
Mm.
And so all these folks come together and do a really good job trying to do the best they can to keep kids safe and hold offenders accountable for their abuse.
Amen to that. So then,
Yes,
and that's what, and you still do that. I
I
mean, obviously there's
do.
a campaign right now, so that stuff, but I mean, you still have a job, and that is your current job.
No, I have another job. I have a couple other jobs
Sheesh.
actually, but all of these things have given me the skills to run for office, so I'm very grateful
What are
for
your other
them.
jobs?
So I work at an organization called Men as Peacemakers, and I do restorative work with the highest level domestic violence offenders before they go to prison. So really, it's trying to save our taxpayers money by not sending people to prison and giving them the skills and opportunity before they face prison time to work on having a nonviolent relationship, repairing the harm that they've caused,
Mm.
and being reintegrated into the community for support.
And do you have another job too?
That's my full-time job.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I serve on the school board,
Oh, no kidding. How long have you been doing, which school?
Superior School Board.
How,
I've been on there for 5 years, and mom's got to hustle. I don't think I'm the only person in this 73rd district with only one, with more than one job. Like, that's the reality of what folks are facing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no kidding. Why did you decide to, with everything that was on your plate, and it is on your plate, why did you decide to run for school board?
we needed diversity on our school board. And as someone that in the past, unfortunately, had to apply for a free and reduced hot lunch, I knew as a low income parent at that time, I wanted to bring that perspective because we did have a pretty high rate of, economically disadvantaged families. That's someone that should be making decisions as well and have an input on our school
Yeah,
board.
sure.
So that was part of the motivation. And then my specialty in working with child abuse victims and kids that have experienced trauma, that
Sure.
was really imperative too, because unfortunately we do have kids in our district that have had trauma. And I wanted to really implement prevention efforts. I wanted to implement making sure we have an effective mental health response and support mental health in our schools, which I was actually able to do some tangible work on the school board with my fellow school board members. So it feels good to do things that benefit the entire
Mm.
community.
Well, I'm sure there's decisions that are made, especially like during, holy cow, so you're on a school board during COVID and masks. And so,
Yeah, I didn't sign up for that.
yeah, like the
Neither
worst
did the
time.
teachers. Yeah,
So what
yeah.
was that experience like? I mean,
You
you're going to have
know,
half the people who hate you, no matter what decision the school board made about, again, masking or reopening or how that whole thing worked for the school where you are on the school board. No matter what, half the people are going to love it and half the people are going to hate it. How do you deal with that?
Oh, no doubt. That's what definitely prepares you for public office. And I think people need to have that experience and acceptance that you represent your constituents. So you speak to people. You don't only just read your hundreds of emails that you get, especially during COVID, but you're out in the community asking people, like, what's your opinion? And my job is not to just, project my personal beliefs, but really like listen and respond to what the community wants you to
Sure.
do. And that's part of the hard work. I think what prepared me was working in the court system, because not every single child sex abuse case that I would forensically interview would go to trial. And that's part of the reality of, like, we
Yeah.
have to look at community-based solutions and doing the best you can with what you have. And so it's the same thing on the school board. You do get people that are upset with you, but at the end of the day, you know that you made the best decision that you could have with the information that you
Yeah.
had and with the people that you connected with.
So then you decide, I'm going to run for political office. Why?
Well, one of the biggest things was being asked by the American Federation of Teachers president. She was the one that called me and said, Laura, Nick Milroy is retiring. And I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I was like, who do we need to talk to run? And she's like, well, that's why I'm calling you. And I just was very honored, and I took a week to think about
I was going to
it.
say, what was your first response? Was it an immediate yes, immediate no? Or
No.
like, I guess I've never really thought about that before.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to. That's why I was going to school for my master's in the study of law at Hamlin at the time. I put a pause on that for the campaign, but I knew I wanted to do legislative work. That's really where you get to have a deep impact on the community, and particularly around child sex abuse, situations and public schools. Those are things I'm very passionate about. And so I took a week. I met with numerous folks that were mentors to me, including Nick Milroy, Minority Leader Greta Neubauer, Representative Neubauer, and just asked a lot of questions. And ultimately, I made the decision that I knew I could do a good job. That this was the skills I was learning in my master's degree were directly going to benefit running for office and being that representative. So the skills, the conversations, the belief of the folks that I met with that I could do this were the reasons why I ran. And 22 decades of work in the fields that I've worked in community, serving community, that's what we need in office. So ultimately, I just knew I'd do a good job, and I wanted to give back.
And with Nick, with Nick Milroy announcing, I think it was it early this year? I can't remember when it was, like January or something. Maybe, no, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So he announced that he was not going to be seeking re-election. And as we all know, that typically an incumbent is more likely to win re-election than a challenger to win an election. Like in the Congress, it's like 92 or 95%. It's just a ridiculously high number. I don't know where it is. I've never looked for like assembly races in like Wisconsin specifically, but certainly it's very high. The overwhelming majority of the time, the incumbent is going to win. This is unique because there isn't an incumbent. But Nick's a Democrat. You're a Democrat. Is it kind of like being an incumbent? Do you feel like, all right, it's kind of like mine to lose? Or no, me and my opponent are pretty much both like challengers. We have no idea how this is going to end up.
I think by the amount of money I'm noticing, such as 5 mailers, tack ads on me, I think this is a seat that's really up for grabs. And that's why I'm working my butt off to knock over 1,500 doors, to fundraise, to go to, community events and meet people. I'm working a tremendous amount of hours to really earn this seat and earn folks' trust. And so it is up for grabs. The redistricting made it even more of a challenge to be like so-called like, leaning blue. That's just not the case.
Yeah, the Nick won last election, but it was like 150 votes or something like that, maybe 200 against, I think it was Keith Kern. So there was kind of maybe this is a vulnerable seat for Democrats in the 73rd, or at least that's kind of what a lot of takeaway was from that. And maybe there's other factors that went in there too. I have no idea. But now with the redistricting, I think you picked up, or not you, but the 73rd, I think, picked up pretty much all of Burnett, right?
Every single part of Burnett County, which has been awesome. I mean, part of what my goal is if I'm elected is to put an office down there because it's about 2 hours to the very bottom from the top, in Superior where I'm located all the way down to the bottom. And that's where my campaign manager has been helpful. She owns some commercial properties and I'll be able to rent an office space from her that is going to be able to be accessible to folks in Burnett County.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah, I think so too. Actually, I think it's a great idea. You said some attack ads. What are you going to attack on? Come on.
Oh gosh, grooming kids and supporting trans youth is a big thing. And working in the child abuse field, I know that they're more at risk of sexual exploitation, trafficking, child abuse because of those vulnerabilities, and oftentimes not a safe place to be. So that's something that I'm being targeted on. And then I'm actually called violent, which is the most ironic thing ever. Because I don't have any criminal record. I have worked in the nonviolence field for 20 years. And I just think, politics has gotten really disgusting rather than focusing on people's skills and experience like I've tried to do. There's just a lot of money in making politics disgusting. And I constantly hear when I'm door knocking, like, I'm sick of politics. That's going to turn people off from doing their civic duty. And that's why I really appreciate your show and having, a blend of guests on is because people need to be informed voters. I think that's really important. And if they don't have access to information, then sometimes they just don't even vote.
And I hear this is same thing you hear. I hear too. Sick of the politics, the negativity, especially in rural Northwest Wisconsin. It doesn't really fly as much as probably in a bigger area. However, every election cycle, and this is probably true for Republicans and Democrats, they still do it. So it must work. Or why do they keep doing it? But then I hear everybody say they don't like it, but yet there must be, data out there somewhere that says it actually works though, so we're going to keep doing it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, that's why there's miseducation. People will believe rather than do their own research. And I get it. We're all busy. And I'm just as busy as you can tell. My son plays soccer. My other son also played soccer. Like, I'm a busy mom, too. Like, that's my number one job. And I think if you're that busy, it is a little more challenging to be like, oh, I'm specifically going to research all the candidates on the ballot. And so the more accessible we can make this information, the better. And that's where there is, showing others they wouldn't spend so much money. 5 attack ads, I can't even tell you, that's probably close to $50,000 to send out that many mailers. And that doesn't include radio. That doesn't include advertising. That's just those 5 attack mailers that have been sent out. That's doing a disservice. And so I hope that people will think about why would someone attack someone rather than talk about their experience, like in any election, not just this one.
And I haven't seen any of those, excuse me, because 73rd, like still right today, Nick Milroy is my assembly district representative. But on January, whenever it starts, 7th, 3rd, sometime whenever he takes office after the winners win and whatever, and then it's going to be Dave Armstrong in the 75th. So it changes. So I wonder if that's why I haven't seen any, because why would they send any stuff to me? Because who I'm voting for would be for the 75th district, which is just weird. So I haven't seen any of them.
We can't spend money on you. This is...
That's fine. I don't care. So is there actually, let's take that a couple of minutes. Is there anything, you had kind of touched on, you were apparently being told that you're a violent person. Is there anything that is out there that you feel as though, I want to clear this up right now? Is there anything that you wanted to clear up?
Oh, sure. Specifically the grooming of kids. I'm someone that represents a bunch of people as a school board member. And so I'm always going to share information that isn't, and it says right on my page, these aren't necessarily the views of the school board. It's just a personal page where I try to share information.
Can I stop? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what does that mean? grooming kids. I literally don't know what that means. I think I do, but I don't think that's what you. What do you mean?
Yeah, I would ask them, what does that mean? But I'll tell you, there's for some reason a negative connotation because it's very much focused. This is interesting on, child, like just trying to make a kid away. Sorry, this is reality. My dog's barking, so
Oh,
don't hate me. Don't hate me, Ben.
oh, that's fine.
So this is the reality of like trying to make kids or mold kids to be someone that they're not. And I think kids know who they are. That's just something we have to know, that teachers, administrators, school board members, they're not trying to make your child a certain way. And that's kind of the angle it sounds like that they're taking.
All right, I still don't really understand it, but
This is what happens. Don't tell me other people working from home don't have this happen.
Live shows, I tell you. What are you going to do?
Right.
Okay,
I'm back.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I'm not going to lie. I still don't really understand what that is implying and what that means. I don't know. I don't understand why I don't understand it.
It's that I'm trying to groom kids to be around trans people or become trans. Or I don't understand it either, to be honest, Ben. It doesn't make
Okay.
sense.
Trans, and you had mentioned that before, and there was a thing. Where do you? I think it was Eau Claire. I think that's what it was. And I've heard a few people talk about this. I'm not going to pretend like I know all the details about it, but it was something on the lines of that in this school, it was found out that a child could identify as something else without a parents knowing about it. I believe that was kind of the gist of what it was. You running for political office, and also because of your career, what you have been in, and also being on the school board, this would be like any one of those, you would be a great person to ask. What are your views and thoughts on that?
So there's legislation called the Parental Bill of Rights, and I support transparency. I support, being a parent myself, parents really being the decision makers for what's best for their kid. The exception is when it's psychologically harming to children. And part of what that bill is that teachers and staff would not be allowed to, use the pronouns that the child is identifying as.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, I think school should be a safe place. I'm not trying to say parents, don't have a say in that. Definitely in their homes, but at school, if a child feels safer and like they can be who they want to be, I want them in school, because there's a lot of research showing if kids do not feel safe at school, it struggles and hampers, impacts rather their attendance rates in school, then we see lower graduation rates. We see trans folks in general are economically more disadvantaged. And now I'm getting really nerdy, but, these are the facts. And there are, trans folks in our community. And that's not the only thing on my platform, but it seems to be, again, like a major attack ad.
Well, I think that would make for a very interesting, perhaps awkward parent-teachers conference for the first time. Like, how does a teacher refer to that student? And parents are going, who are you talking about? What's going on?
Yeah, well, parents know. And that's why we see higher runaway rates. So would we rather have kids being sexually exploited and committing crimes in our community, or would we rather have a safe place for them to be? Obviously, I think, again, teachers and parents can work out those details on a case-by-case basis. Sure. And as a school board member, I'm not there to tell them what to do with that.
You had just mentioned that there's other things that you're running on, and for some reason, this seems to be the thing that people want to talk about, which I understand that. Yeah. That's just kind of how things work. It's it elicits a lot of emotions from people. Yeah, a lot of strong feelings. I know. So what else then? Your platform. What are your three things that I want you to know exactly where I stand on these three things, and these are the three things I'm really focused on too. What are those three things?
Number one is community safety. I've done ride-alongs with Burnett County, Douglas County. I've got one scheduled with the Superior Police Department. I've met numerous other police departments, obviously working along law enforcement for these 2 decades to keep our community safe, to hold offenders accountable. I believe in investment in public safety. We need to raise our starting pay. We need to, make sure that there's collaboration with mental health organizations to support our law enforcement, because they do a great job, but they're not psychologists. They're not there to, be the mental health experts. We can't expect that. They're there to keep our community safe. And so investing in community safety is a big priority for me, and that looks a lot of different ways.
When you say investing in that, and I think at this point, also this is a topical thing, like everybody talks about it, is the defund the police. Is that a part of it? Is it because there is some misnomers about defund the police, but there is also some things that are absolutely true about the defund the police. But one of them is we want to put more into the community to help law enforcement, but in order to have that money, we want to take away money from law enforcement. That kind of ties into some of the so yeah, we're taking it away, but we want to take that and put it into other things to essentially would take stuff from law enforcement so you don't have to worry about it. So are you talking about maybe taking some away from one and putting in the other? Or no, we need to continue to fund the police, but also find out how we can get funding to support them and more community safety in conjunction with law enforcement?
Yeah, so as I just said, I said we need to definitely invest in our law enforcement departments. Sure. They need to be able to raise those salaries so we can attract and have all the spots filled in the departments that are running on short staff. Like that's not helpful to our community. And so we need to invest in them and have starting rates that are attracting folks. One of the things I love that the Siren School District has done is actually like a youth academy for law enforcement. That's a great idea. We're grooming kids with that to be able to maybe be interested in the law enforcement department. That's the kind of grooming I can get behind. So also, there's $5 billion, Ben, sitting as a surplus right now. We don't need to take money away from anyone. We need to invest that money. It needs to go back to taxpayers. It's being held hostage until after the governor's race, which I think is absolutely ridiculous that money is being withheld from us. People should be pissed about that. I'm pissed about that. When we have teachers, we have public schools going to referendum to asking taxpayers for more money because we're not funding them at the rate they need to be. Law enforcement saying we can't get enough applications to fill the spots that we have. Why is that money not being given back to us so that we can have the supports that we need? And then again, investing in mental health. That's a huge thing in the 73rd. So that's one of my platforms. The other thing, as Sherrie brought up, is the environment. So infrastructure, conservation. I'm really proud that I've been endorsed by, I believe, over 32 organizations at this point. From a range of, human rights to conservation to our union workers. So that's a part of that infrastructure priorities as well. So environmental specifically, I'm a huge supporter of public lands. My boyfriend hunts on public lands. We want to make sure it's accessible to all folks. That's a big priority. We have beautiful state parks and along the St. Croix, we have really important watersheds. Yeah. We have important anglers that want to be able to fish in tourism. And so those are things that I definitely want to see continue to be protected. And that is where we need restrictions. You can't say that you're pro-conservation or environmental if you're not protecting those lands with some legislation. That has to happen. And we need to have high enough standards that our future generations will also be able to utilize the outdoors, enjoy fishing, as my boys do, hunting. Those are important things to preserve for our future. And my kids particularly, I'm very much invested in that.
And what's your third one?
So I think, sorry, I know this. I'm just like,
Just make it up.
No,
I don't know.
No. I think, part of under the community is, like I said, investing in our public schools. That is a really big thing. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things that we're doing. Obviously, I am in support. I'm endorsed by Planned Parenthood. I didn't mention that. And that's something that they have a huge backing. People do not want 1800s bill limiting choice for people about when and how they decide to, start a family. I think it's important to have that there. I've seen both sides of it. I mean, my own mom, um, when she was a single parent and fled domestic violence, had to make that decision. And she ended up with, making the decision because she's pro-life. That's okay, but then I saw firsthand struggling as a single mom being raised by her, that there's not a lot of support after you have that kid. And that's what we talk about, right? We were living, my mom's using those paper checks at the grocery store, to provide for us. We're living in low income housing. These are things that if we're going to say we're pro-life, that we actually invest in. So, I've had a lot of folks share, especially in the child sex abuse that I've witnessed, these situations where people need to make the decision for themselves. And if you want to talk about freedom, let's talk about bodily freedom and autonomy for our bodies.
What bill would you support when it comes to reproductive, pro-life, pro-choice, under that whole umbrella? You're elected and it's like, okay, I would be happy with this and nothing else. It has to be minimum this or I'm not supporting it. What does that look like?
Repealing the statute that's currently on the books so that it's not criminalized.
So okay, so it's not criminalized. What does that mean then? Does that mean that abortion is
legal?
Got it. And there isn't just with exceptions. It should be for everyone at any point from conception until birth.
So no, it is absolutely not something that's happening where babies are born and there's an abortion happening. I mean, that's the fear tactic. I mean, that's one of the attack ads as well, is that I support late-term abortion. I think there needs to be really looking at the data of is that actually happening in our communities? Is this again a fear tactic or something that's actually happening? I don't know or have heard of any actual abortion providers, which we don't have any abortion providers. I'll tell you, in the northern part of Wisconsin, there's no abortion providers in the 73rd district as well. So we know that people are already, traveling and having to, especially with low income families, have to experience additional barriers to actually even accessing an abortion.
Yeah.
So I don't support, any limitations on, what a doctor and a patient decide is the best situation. Sure. So late-term abortions in particular, like I was saying, it's not something that's really happening unless that woman's life is in danger. And so that, again, how is that pro-life if we're choosing that mother is going to die? And it's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. I think, again, freedom of choice. I think freedom of your body autonomy is important, and making that decision with your provider. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to be about to be telling women what they need to do with their bodies.
How do you think, when you talk to Nick Milroy, how do you think he did as the assembly representative? Because he's been there for a while, right? 10, 12 years, I think, maybe more. 8, 10. He's been there for a while. 8 years. Okay. He
also went around, I think it was closer to 300 votes.
Was it? Okay. All right, man. I'm sorry. I thought it was 150 or 200. Maybe it was 250. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question. What about affordable housing in our communities?
Yeah, that's part of that infrastructure. I mean, we definitely have a housing shortage. I'm going to be hosting a medical resident because they can't find housing in this area. I mean, we need more medical professionals and they need housing. We want people to work in this community. They're going to need housing. So investing in affordable housing is a really important issue to me. And that means what does that mean? Affordable, right? We need to be looking at what are jobs actually paying in this area. Growing up in public housing, we need to give dignified housing too. It can't be landlords that are predatory, working with women that were homeless at that shelter. I saw firsthand, folks that didn't provide safe housing. And so there are ordinances in place, and we have a lot of good landlords too, but we need to be making sure that folks are not gouging. And these are actually apartments that folks that are working minimum wage jobs can afford.
Going back to Nick Milroy, where I was going with that was when you look at what the things that he has done and you go, you know what, he was doing great at these and I want to keep doing those things too.
So with our let me just preface this, we need more balance in the assembly because you look at the numerous bills that Nick Milroy authored and it was constantly people not working, people not meeting since February, I believe, when they gavelled in and gavelled out. How can you get work done if people aren't meeting, if they're not willing to bring boards before that? So I think Nick did the best that he could. But if there's people not even willing to meet, not even to go to show up to the hearing and work on behalf of the people, let me tell you something, Ben. Who gets to be paid for a job and not actually work? I've never experienced that kind of privilege.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another line of work. I can't think of one. It's funny. So I do this show every Tuesday with the Barron County Sheriff because of a jail called Positive the Benefits. And it was, I think, 2 weeks ago. We kind of talked about this, and he had said we really just need like our legislators to be, working. Like, no kidding. I don't understand how you can have a whole summer out for like 7 months. Like, what's you can't get anything done if you're not actually meeting. He's like, I don't care. It should be every month they should be doing something. I don't care if it's like 2 weeks out of every month or every other week or whatever it is, but we need more. And I forgot we had talked about I should start asking or meet the candidate guests about that question. Obviously, that will probably never change. And it sounds like I think I know how you're going to answer it because you kind of touched on it. Do you think they should just, okay, we still need to have your home life too and your raising your family. What is a perfect way to do this? Is it more often? Is it every other week? But that's got to be tough. Then we got daycare. What is the answer?
I am going to be spending as much time down in Madison as possible. I think it should be at a minimum monthly because you do need to spend time with your constituents as well, which is why I want to have offices, that are more accessible to throughout the county because of how it's been redistricted. It's very inaccessible. So that's going to be an important piece too. You need to balance spending time in your district so that you know the needs, so that when you go to Madison, you can bring those forth and represent your folks well. So I think monthly at a minimum, but there's always going to be then subcommittees that you're on. So that's going to be important too, or administrative groups that are meeting. And it's important as a freshman that I'm open-minded about which, ones are going to be appointed to, because you don't necessarily always get like your top choices.
Yeah, you're a freshman. You get the leftovers.
Yeah.
Right. And plus, you're driving farther than anybody else. Superior down to Madison. I think you've got to be one of the 73rd district representative is one of the farthest away from Madison. I don't know if it's like the farthest away. I don't know about like northeast Wisconsin, but still, how far of a drive is that for you down to Madison? 5 hours?
I'd say a little over 5 for sure. Yep.
Oy.
Well, Apostle Islands are the furthest, but, usually I'm the furthest north at any kind of meetings.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Zoom. Hopefully we can start doing some more of those. If you, or when you, I don't know how you want me to word that, you win.
Yeah.
What would you credit your win? Why would you have won? You win the next day, like, that makes sense because of this. Why are you going to win?
Number one, because of the number of volunteers really helping. I can't knock 26,000 doors on my own. And so that's a big piece of it. But then also like my experience and dedication. Every single day, I'm either knocking doors or talking to voters on the phone. I'm doing every single thing possible. And at the end of the day, I'm going to know I did my best and that I was the most qualified candidate for this position, that I am committed to community and not just promoting myself. I think I'm going to feel good the next day, no matter what, because I'm also going to go on a little vacation. I think I've earned that working how many hours I am a week. But,
that's smart.
Very excited. Yeah. Because when January hits, it's going to be like real.
Yeah. Just take like a whole month and a half off. Now, if in the event, in this hypothetical scenario, you lose, The next day, I call you and I say, why did you lose? What are you going to tell me? And don't say because the other person got more votes. I know that. I mean, what would you attribute that to?
I'm going to attribute it to not having a nonpartisan way of redistricting. Folks are confused about where they vote because these redistricting just came out in January. It is not impartial, and I'd like to see, a commission actually that's nonpartisan drafting lines in the future. It's just really important that we think about how we are, again, bringing in fairness so people actually have to work together, and balance can do that. Additionally, money. I'll tell you, people like me are not asked to run often, Ben. I, again, don't have a partner contributing to my household. Single parents, it's more of a challenge. Being a woman, it's more of a challenge for a candidate. And when you're running against a very wealthy opponent, I'm not sitting on a lake, behind me. I'm sitting in my old house that I've owned and I'm very proud of, working in nonprofits, working in community. Those are not backgrounds that pay a lot, but I did it because I love it and because I'm committed to this community. So if I lose, it's going to be not because of my lack of hard work, because I think everyone can see how hard I'm working. It's going to be because of money, and it's going to be because of gerrymandering.
Yeah. Well, Patty, I think in the 28th, I think she probably liked the maps. I think that actually helped her. No kidding. I really think it did.
It could have. Yeah, that's great.
And because I think there was two of them that those maps actually probably helped Democrats a little bit more. And one of them is the Senate. That's the 10th Senate, but that's Rob Stafford's seat. And that's not up this term. That's not for another couple of years. So yeah, it may hurt you a little, but Patty's probably happy.
Yeah, well, look at the 74.
Thanks for taking one for the team.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, those independents are going to be really important, and I think I just hope people get out to vote. And that's the will of the people in the 73rd.
Yeah, where can people go and find out more information about you? Or donate to your campaign, or volunteer for your campaign?
Yeah, GapskeForAssembly.com.
Gapske. Now, is it the FOR or the number?
Oh, FOR.
FOR, okay. Some people use the FOR and some people the 4, and it's like, well, and I keep going to the wrong ones. Got it.
Yeah. Gapske. I'm super excited. I gotta share. I'm gonna be highlighted on the Veep show and the West Wing. There's like a merging of that, and it's going to be really fun. It's on Sunday night.
Slow down. Whoa. How did this not get brought up immediately? West Wing is my all-time favorite show. Like, no joke. The first 4 seasons. After that, when Aaron Sorkin left, it went downhill fast.
Yeah.
I think I've watched the last 3 seasons maybe twice. I don't think I made it through the second time because it's just not very good. But those first 4 seasons, man, that's legit. And I've seen Veep. That's with Julie Dreyfus. Is that the one? Julianne Dreyfus?
Yeah.
It's the vice president.
From Seinfeld? Come on.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. So now what's going on? They're getting together and somehow you're a part of this?
Yes. Me and one other assembly candidate, we're going to be highlighted very briefly, obviously, but it's, they're doing like a special, combination, and it's just going to be really fun. I get a few seconds to share some fun facts about me. Emily is a huge fan. I'm a campaign manager about Veep.
Yeah, that's Emily. She's awesome.
She's just, fangirling out. And I'm glad you have standards about TV shows, Ben.
Just saying. And they just aren't very, TV shows now are just terrible. I mean, for the most part. But, I miss that. I miss it. I have to watch it every.
I don't watch TV anymore.
We don't really much. Yeah. It's like I watch the first 20 minutes of the news from 7 to 7:20. That's the only good 20 minutes of news. Is the only good time of news is just that first 15, 20 minutes. They get through a whole bunch of stories. You find out what's going on. That and really just sports. Now, my wife, all she has, I literally had to put a TV in the kitchen. And when you turn it on, it has not moved. I don't know why we pay for all these channels. Because it has not moved off of HGTV in 3 months. Yeah. Every time you turn it on, it just goes right to it. And she just has it on all the time. And I don't care. If that means she stays in the kitchen and cooks, well, I'm not going to complain. She likes cooking and I like eating. So it's a perfect relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when
So
is
Emily
this
put a
Sunday
little
night? So when is
information.
this? Where is it going to be aired? How can we watch this?
Oh, maybe Emily can help me with that. It's through the DWP on Sunday night, so it will be some kind of like online, you know, through the Democratic Party of
That's what
Wisconsin.
I was.
So
I'm
if
like
you
going
go there,
DPW. I think that's the
yeah,
Democratic Party of Wisconsin.
they'll have links on their website. So super excited about that.
Well, what we'll do is I'll find out. If Emily can't find out right now and throw it in a link, we'll put this on the link when we're finished the show. We'll find out where people can go or the information about it, and we'll put it in the comments here when we're finished, because that's awesome. What are they doing? That they're getting
Yeah.
together not to just highlight, Laura Gapske, or give you some time to talk about something, but what's the point of this thing? Is it just to allow candidates to do this, or is there something else?
Well, there's only 2 or 3 candidates, so I must be doing
That's
something
awesome.
right. Yeah, I think the reason why they've chosen the folks they have, not that everyone's working hard, but specifically in this district, I've faced even more, I'd say, more barriers to running for office, and I'm also doing the work. So this is just really an honor. I'm not sure exactly how they chose it, but the acknowledgement is really special.
What? That's freaking awesome. Seriously, that
Yeah.
is so cool. And I can't wait to watch. Hopefully, people will be able to watch this, right? It's not just exclusive
Yes.
to certain people. That I
Yeah.
can't wait, because it'd be so neat to see a lot of those actors all these years later. So I'll definitely
Hmm.
be watching Sunday night. So we'll find out more information. We'll put it in the comments. All right. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Well, I think we should probably talk about some of the other things that are on the ballot. So, folks in the city of Superior are going to have a referendum on the ballot that's getting kind of a temperature gauge for whether or not they believe that marijuana for recreational use should be allowed with, some parameters around that, similar to alcohol. And so that's something that's a little different. That's a lot of folks don't know, and the city of Superior is going to be on the ballot.
And how are
So
you
I'm
voting on
excited
that
to
one?
see. I'll be voting in support, meeting with law enforcement and talking about it before it would be legalized, if that happens in the state of Wisconsin. We need to make sure people are not putting a community at risk, or creating, unsafe
Right.
situations, especially driving while
That's really
high,
the
I
biggest one,
guess.
right? And actually tying that in, because we've talked about that 59, I've talked about with some other sheriffs and chiefs and people in law enforcement. And really, those are the two big things. One is just that we need to be able to, we don't want them driving. I think right now, if we knew that if we legalize marijuana, and we know this to be true 100% of the time, you would never get behind a wheel if you are high or you're impaired.
Right.
That would be a huge one. And number two, that we knew it was never around kids. Because even if it's, obviously for kids, they can't. If, under a certain age, you wouldn't be able to. But what about the parents or parent who is smoking in the house and their kids are in the house? So if it never touched in any way, shape, or form a child, I think just
Right.
about everybody would say that I'm perfectly fine with it. Do what you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously that isn't true. And I know that alcohol is bad and we have a lot of things, and et cetera. I get that. But I think those are the two big hangups for a lot of people when it comes to the legalization of marijuana, are those two things.
Hmm. Yeah. I also get excited about the taxation of it, though, and the way that, especially in the 73rd, we have folks that have to drive to Eau Claire. We got folks that have to drive to Appleton when someone's in a mental health crisis. And
Mm,
if we could use those tax dollars for addiction, for mental health crisis, we have an opiate epidemic, in our communities. That taxation on recreational use of marijuana could be helpful, and it's going to help farmers. Like, think about hemp
oh,
farming,
right.
is a great industry. We have small farmers and businesses going out, losing them. And this is another way that actually the UW system in Plattsburgh has, or Plattsville, excuse me, has an entire program on hemp agriculture,
Yeah.
excuse me. Those are things that I'm excited about.
We should just tax everything that is illegal. and just make, like, I don't know, prostitution. Screw it. Let's just make it legal. Get them some medical help, Medicare, and then just make the money off of that. And murder, well that's fine. You can only do it in this area.
No, Ben. Being the chair of the Human Trafficking Task Force Commission through the mayor's office, I don't think that would be a huge hit.
What if 90% of your constituents said they wanted prostitution legalized in the 73rd district? These are your guys. That's what they want. Do you say, okay, all right, that's what you want? Or is it, no, dummy, not going to do that?
Yeah, so constituents' voices are the most important, but then we also need to look at what's the impact on law enforcement, right? I am in support of Safe Harbor, though, which is decriminalizing children from being cited or arrested for commercial sexual exploitation or human trafficking. Those kids need mental health treatment.
Wait, they can get arrested or cited they can?
Yes.
Well,
and that's been repealed in Minnesota. That's why Wisconsin actually received an F on our response to human trafficking. So we got a lot of work to do with that aspect as well.
That's stupid. When we're finished, I want to get some more information about that from you. Maybe I'll text you later or call you. And no kidding, I want to look into that because that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
But I want to look into it more because maybe I'm wrong on that. But I want to see what that is. Okay, last or final words.
I am just so appreciative of all the folks that have supported me throughout this campaign. We've got, I believe, 33 days left. You can do anything for 33 days. And I'm going to be the next 2 weeks. I hope folks will get involved. You can make phone calls. You can door knock. You can have a house party where you can meet your neighbors. Folks have been generous to do those things. And I just want to say, our state elections are even more important, I would say, on our daily lives and have an impact on our daily lives more than a presidential election.
Agreed.
And so please get involved because we need folks to turn out and tell us what they want and really choose the representative that they feel will do the best for them in Madison.
Do you think Evers is going to win this?
Yes.
I don't know where I land. Like a month ago, I would have said yes. Now I don't know. And then I don't know how much people pay attention to like when Michael's kind of now it's the abortion. Well, now actually I'd be okay with it. I don't know if that moves the needle for people or not. Is like well whatever that's fine. Or is it what? How dare you? I don't know how that one's gonna end.
You should probably live in Wisconsin full time if you think you're gonna represent the state. That's my saying. That's my opinion.
Well, it'd be helpful. You'd think.
Yeah, maybe. So. Yeah, I am very hopeful. I've been knocking for Evers as well, talking about all the folks on the ballot. And he is someone that supports public education. That's very much important to the future of our society. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, speaking of state elections, so tomorrow I have Amy Loudenbeck. Don't know anything about her. I think today we're supposed to be having a call, like a 5 or 10 minute call, because I always like I do with you, just to get to know somebody just a little bit, the conversation style. And that'll be the first time I've ever talked to her. Don't know, but more importantly, not that I don't know anything about her, which sometimes I like that. So when somebody comes on for the first time, I get to know them the same time everybody else does. But I feel like I should probably do like a Wikipedia search at the very least to find out what does a Secretary of State do? Like, I don't feel like I should ask that because I'm like, all right, I don't mind playing dumb, and I usually am dumb. But I literally don't know. Do you know, like, what is a Secretary of State? Like, what's your job? Like, I don't have any idea.
Right. No, I get asked that at the door. And I think it's great that people ask those questions. So honestly, it's not a bad idea to ask those questions.
Okay. All right. I'll just do that. I'm not going to look it up at all.
No.
I'll just ask. Awesome. Laura, thanks so much for coming on.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. It was really fun.
Awesome. Special thank you to our guest, Democratic candidate in Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District, Laura Gapske, for taking the time to come on and have a chat. Remember, I will be back tomorrow morning at 8:30 on Friday, October 7th, when we welcome the Republican candidate for Wisconsin Secretary of State and find out what that is, Amy Loudenbeck. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching and have a blessed day.